Good morning. It's the commencement of a new week, and welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. To the very first story, Ghana Health Service says it has identified 40 additional persons in the Savannah region who may have come into contact with the Marburg virus. The Health Service, about a week ago, received a report from the Pasteur Research Institute in Senegal confirming the first 2 cases of hemorrhagic fever. 11 of the 40 new contacts are said to be healthcare workers who are closely being monitored. As a news conference, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abu-Baidoo, said that the rapid response team has been constituted to support localized personnel in the Ashanti, Savannah and Western regions following this development.
99 were close family members or household or community contacts. And all contacts, as I said, has completed the 21-day as we speak. So if you see the map there, we have the Solar Tuna Kaaba, which came into view because in the early phases, the first case was sent there and buried. And so during the burial and we had contacts there to look out for. We also have the Adansi North and to some extent Bekwai as the area of concern in Ashanti region. And then we have Western region, that's Pristia Huni Valley district, which is where the first case fell ill and came from. And so that's our main source of concern, that they may have been the source of the infection because the person was ill there before moving to Adansi, where within 3 days the system picked it up. Unfortunately, one close contact reported symptoms after the maximum incubation period. That was after the 21 days, reported some symptoms and died on the 21st of July 2022. This, I mean, for the sake of the family, these are very, very close relatives or members of the deceased, where under normal circumstances they are higher risk. But what is interesting here is that it came after the 21 days quarantine. So we've taken samples and following up with them. Currently 40, so because of that, the initial test had come up as positive for that close contact. And we have identified 40 additional contacts within the Savannah region where the incident occurred. 11 of them are health workers, and 11 out of the 40 are health workers, and the rest are other new members, including patients. Well, after the time, the patient had been discharged from quarantine, but we're still monitoring to see. Daily temperature in general health and well-being is being undertaken by health workers in the affected districts on daily basis. So we have instituted additional public health measures. These are, we have alerted all districts in the country to be on the lookout. And I must say that it's a very, very high sensitivity area. So we had a couple of cases that come close are tested, but so far we've had no positive outside these places. We've also the community engagement and risk communication, education on what to do, what not to do as part of the protection has also been done on, and then further investigation continue to go on to look at the main source of the condition. We've also constituted a rapid response team with the support from the regional and district response team to detail the investigations that are going on. We have looked at the clinical records. What we do is that we go to the facility in the area, look at anybody who has come there, because it could be missed, with symptoms that come close to that. And then we look at it. But so far, everything is fine. That's apart from the 2 cases, we have not had any one that comes close to that.
Now, family, friends, former appointees and statesmen held a series of events to mark the 10th anniversary of the passing of Ghana's third president in the Fourth Republic. President Mills is the only Guinean president to have died while serving in office. For his predecessor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he hopes the sad event would never reoccur in our history, adding that the memory of Mills would never be forgotten.
Exactly 10 years ago, a truly tragic incident occurred, one we had never witnessed and hope will never reoccur in our history. Certainly not in our lifetime. The death of a sitting president in office, the death of the third president of the Fourth Republic, Professor John Evans Atta Mills. We were contemporaries at the University of Ghana, members of the same hall, the premier hall of the university, the Hall of Gentlemen, Legon Hall. We played in the same university football team, and as fate would have it, we ended up belonging to and leading different political organizations. We contested the presidency in 2008, and even though some will say it does not count, I won the first round. And he won the second round, the round that really mattered. I was looking forward to a third round in 2012 when the Almighty called him home on 24th of July 2012. The words of Holy Scripture in Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 and 9 sum it up perfectly by saying that, and I quote, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts," unquote. News of his death brought up many emotions: grief, sadness, reflections on the past, reminiscences on a generation, the stark reality of mortality, the prospects of eternity, the presence of the living God. Sometime after becoming president, I became aware of the sad state of Asomdwe Park, and in 2020, I received a request from the late president's energetic communications director, Koku Anyidoho, who runs the institute named after the president, for the assistance of government to rehabilitate the facility. I agreed, and subsequently, I instructed the Coastal Development Authority.
Meanwhile, the man who served as his vice president and later president of the Republic says John Evans Atta Mills was a proven achiever. According to former President John Dramani Mahama, his boss was a personification of substance over form, while stressing his immense contribution to national development.
Professor Mills' tenure as president, admirable personal qualities and attributes. He was a proven achiever who demonstrated that one and still get a lot done. He was the personification of the expression substance over form. Despite the description given him by his detractors as Dr. Doolittle, President Mills achieved a lot in the short 3.5 years he served as president of this nation. There is no small sense of irony in the fact that we mark his 10th anniversary of his passing at a time of unprecedented economic downturn. For here lies a man whose tenure as president yielded the best, most stable, and prosperous economic outcomes for our nation at the Fourth Republic. Under him, Ghana famously recorded its highest ever GDP growth rate of about 14.4%. And the significant thing is, under his presidency, for most of the years, the biggest contribution to our GDP growth was the non-oil sector rather than the oil sector. The real sector contributed more to GDP growth than the oil sector. And he still holds the record for the longest ever sustained period of single-digit inflation of 33 months. And in his day, almost all key economic indices pointed in the right direction, compared to now when our economy is sadly in such disarray. With this sound economic base, he launched ambitious and progressive policies that resolve some of the most complex challenges of our national life. The effect of his policies resonated through all sectors, including energy, education, health, agriculture, and security, among others.
Authorities and pupils of Kumasi cluster of schools are now heaving a sigh of relief following a donation of 150 dual desk files at 22,500 Ghana cedis to the schools hitherto. The pupils lie on the bare floor during instructional periods and had their uniforms torn as a result of continuous rubbing of the uniforms on the floor. JoyNews' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more in the following report.
On a normal school day, this is how it looks like at Kulumaha DA Primary and Kindergarten. Here, you see some of the pupils seated on a long bench. Others who have no such facility have to lie on the bare floor. Make no mistake, these primary 2 pupils of Kulumaha DA Primary are not engaged in a competition of who can lie on the dirty cemented floor for long, but painted a mental picture of the inadequate furniture at Kulumaha cluster of schools. In this class, there are 2 sets of pupils, some seated on a 10-meter long rough board bench, and the unlucky ones lie prostrate on the dirty bare floor, holding on to their books while teaching went on. The continuous rubbing of their uniforms on the bare floor has resulted in many of them having torn school uniforms and often requires the service of an embroidery machine. The few classes that have furniture that the pupils outnumber are old, jaded, and have crooked stands, and usually have to be supported with another piece of wood to enable them sit comfortable. Teachers and pupils are unhappy with the situation.
We find it difficult to write. In a primary school, my sisters and brothers, they come home every day dirty. When you ask them, they'll say they have been sitting on the floor to write. And even their books are always dirty. Some of them lost their pens because they don't have desks to put their pens and books inside. Even in the junior high school, we the Form 3s, we sit 3-3. And when we are going to write the mark, you see that some people will be copying each other.
Also worried about the unhealthy and dehumanizing situation at the schools is the Kulumaha Youth Association, KYA. The association has to divert monies meant for a water project in the community to fix the furniture challenge.
A few months ago, it was brought to the attention of KYA that the furniture situation in our schools was quite...
The mini clinics of the JoyNews EcoBank Habitat Fair ended yesterday as patrons and exhibitors await the main event in August. It has been a busy weekend filled with mouth-watering discounts and tailor-made packages for prospective homeowners. My colleague Charles Saite has been interacting with the patrons and exhibitors about their shared experiences and expectations.
So this is the JoyNews EcoBank Habitat Fair. It's the very second and last mini clinic, and we have always been saying that this is part of efforts by Joy FM to bridge the housing deficit in the country, which currently stands at over 2 million housing units across the country. So you could see with me here the various exhibitors who have mounted up their goods and services, and I must say that discounted prices and very much mouth-watering offers in stock here. The patrons are also checking out the various stands. You can see that from church they are trooping in to check out the various packages that are in set for them. The feedback has been lovely, it has been impressive, and they're just giving in much more, enthusiasm about the main event on August this particular year. But let's now try and get the views of our very exhibitors who made this a reality. And thankfully, we have super lock technologies when it comes to security, when it comes to safeguarding your home. They're the best bet to that. And we have here, who do we have here from the stand?
I'm Abigail.
All right, so we started on Friday, then we moved to Saturday, and today's the very last day of the mini clinics. What's your impression from Super Locks?
It's been a great fair so far. I mean, people have come to realize that where they live matters. So it's been a great turnout, and then we are expecting a bigger one at the conference center in August.
So, I mean, let's get to know more of Super Locks. You're on television, live on television now, and I believe that some patrons have passed by your stand. So what is it that they're taking along with them when it comes to discounts?
Okay, so when it comes to discount, okay. So basically, people know us for our security doors, but as they came to the fair, they've come to realize that we don't just do security doors. We have a lot of products that we work with, ranging from kitchen cabinets, burglar-proof. We have wooden doors. We have pergolas, kitchens, walk-in closets, and all that. So they have come to get to know that we don't only do security doors. So yeah. And we're also having great discounts offers. We are ranging from security doors. We have some discounts on our security doors, our windows, and basically all our products. So once they come around, they get to enjoy, the discounts and then.
That's great. So that's from Super Locks there, and they are also saying that it has been a very wonderful experience here at the JoyNews EcoBank Habitat Fair, the mini clinics in that regard. Let's now visit DBS, because we do know that over the past few years, issues regarding roofing in Ghana has been much more of a concern. Thankfully, this company came on board with innovative ways of attracting customers and making roofing, effective roofing, much more affordable. You can see them attending to patrons here, and this has been the norm since the mini clinic started. I'm so sorry to interrupt you guys, but you're live on JoyNews. I hope you're having a good time. You came here to check out this kind of stuff here, but how is the customer service? You came here to listen to them. I mean, how is the customer service so far?
So we are interchanging. We are doing kind of a barter trade here. So we are from the Plan City Extension Project. We came to inquire about their products, and then we are also selling our products to them. So once the building is done, we'll need some things from them. Yeah, so they will also need to come to us for us to give them the contract so that they provide us with the things. So that's what we are doing here.
So you are establishing contacts in that nature, which is so effective, and it's part of what JoyNews EcoBank Habitat Fair is all about. It's not just about the patrons and exhibitors, but as you rightly stated, creating synergies to ensure a long-lasting relation. So DBS, we do know that roofing is very, very expensive in Ghana. People are really shying away, and they are opting for cheap methods of roofing their homes. What message do you have for patrons out there who are yet to visit your stand regarding affordable but effective roofing systems?
If you say DBS is very expensive,
I'm saying that roofing in general is expensive, but where does DBS come in on this?
DBS has been in the system for almost about 25 years, and we have built credibility in the industry. If you look over here, there is something you can read for yourself. 20 years anti-fading warranty. No company in Ghana, as we speak now, provides you with security as at this. And this is binding, okay? So with only this, DBS stands unique and then superior about all the other roofing companies.
How has the mini clinic been for DBS so far? This is the very second and last mini clinic. Your feedback so far? On the mini clinic, the JoyNews Habitat Fair, how has the feedback so far been for DBS?
Oh, so far it has not been bad. People are coming in. We've sent quotations out to some people that we anticipated that within the next week or two, we can close that sales. And if you can see, DBS has also increased their product line. We are now into ready-mix concrete. So we have the ready-mix concrete for your groundworks and then for the floors as well. We also do the building blocks. We do road curbs and then pavement blocks as well.
Any advice there to someone building their home and who is yet to roof their building? What advice do you have for them from the perspective of DBS?
And the advice, I'll pick it from the concrete angle first. You see, most of the time a young guy wants to start a project. He goes by buying his own cement and blocks to produce his own blocks. But you see, that is not your work. Let the bankers do the bank. Let the concrete people also do the concrete work. The reason being that if you look at this block, for instance, this block has been compressed, okay? So more material goes into it, which makes it solid. Why not use that one for the foundation so that the building becomes solid? But rather, he will use the man-made one by the roadside or by he and his masons.
And that's all for the news. The show continues with my colleague Benjamin Akakpo and Bernice Abu-Baidoo, Lansah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the News Review. Here we go. As we get into the papers, we'll be joined shortly by Sulemana Brahima, Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa. He actually is with us on this conversation. Mr. Brahima, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation, sir.
Good morning to you, Ben, and thank you for having me.
Great. Let's take a look at the following, even before we get into the newspapers. The newspapers talk about some of these matters already, but let's take a look at the recent SHRAJ, Ghana Statistical Service, UNODC report. I know you've seen it. What is your take? I'm going back to it. Of course, it's still relevant, very relevant, and I've not had a discussion with you on it. So what is your quick reflection on what it evinces? Somewhat 80+% of Ghanaians, involved in bribery and corruption, the educated looking like the most corrupt public officials, very corrupt, the Ghana Police Service in there. There are different dynamics when it comes to those who actually are engaging in it, and then how much is received in terms of sums, the risk and all of that. So what is your quick reflection on that?
Well, I think it's basically a report highlighting something that we all know in terms of corruption as a phenomenon that has actually become normalized. I think for many people in our country today, what is known as corruption is something that is normal. You go to places and you would have to part with money before service is granted. You need a contract and you have to agree to a padded figure to get a contract. Almost everywhere, corruption has become the norm. And I share in the conviction that until we get a leader who is truly and honestly committed to the fight against corruption, this thing would continue. Our architecture in terms of governance and administration is such that, as we always say, the president has enormous powers and basically controls everything. And so if you have a president who comes in and is truly and honestly committed to fighting corruption, and it starts with him or her in terms of what happens at the presidency, what ministers are able to do or are unable to do, what CEOs are allowed or disallowed to do, to a large extent will then influence what happens at the bottom in terms of what is often referred to as petty corruption. people talk about the police, and I share the view that COP Kofi Boakye has always put out, that it is one thing counting the number of incidents and another thing counting the quantum. So you may find 100 police officers, directing traffic and, traffic enforcement officers, and maybe people will part away with some 10 cities, 20 cities, maximum 50 cities to all the 100 people. So if you are counting, you would say, wow, 100 police officers have received bribe. But all that put together may be just about 1,000 Ghana cedis. But in one contract, a minister is going away with some 500 or 1 million Ghana cedis. Or a CEO is going away with some $1 million or $500,000. So sometimes when we say the police or the immigration officers are the most corrupt, we are talking about perhaps the number of times, the number of incidents that some money may have been given. But the major corrupt deals that really undermine what we could do as a nation happens in the political circles, in the ministries, in the departments, in the agencies, at the presidency, and so on. And so until we all get a leader who is honestly committed, I don't think that will go anywhere. It is a fact that, yes, we all have a role and responsibility. The one who takes the 1 cedi is equally corrupt. The one who takes 5 cedis is equally corrupt. But I'm a leader in an organization. If I were corrupt or if I am corrupt, my people will be emboldened to also begin to cut corners. So it all begins with the leadership and ends with the leadership.
Let's take a look at some other items of concern, but some of them are in the papers, so we might as well get into them. Starting with the Daily Graphic. 10th anniversary of JEA Mills's demise, Asumdwe Park refurbished. Mills won't be forgotten. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. He also says the late president, in describing Kwaku Anyidoho, who was there right by his side, the late president's energetic communications director. But let me ask you, I've been reflecting. I don't know whether you've seen pictures of the bust. Some people have complained about the look of the bust. Others have also complained about what the bust looked like when the erstwhile administration put it up. Some say that was just shambolic. Some say it's better now, the bust that has been made, which was inaugurated on Sunday, but that they made the former president look like a schoolboy. I mean, you see so many things because of the shape of the shirt he is donning. But I have a fundamental problem. You look at this bust, and let me just get the photo and just read from there. So the actual bust has this written on it. This was unveiled by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, and assisted by Samuel Kwaku Anyidoho, founder and CEO at a Mills Institute. Sunday, July the 24th, 2022, to God Almighty be the glory. I mean, if you were a tourist, come to Ghana, and looking at this, how do you even know whom the bust was talking about? There's nothing about Atta Mills here. Of course, if you went to the actual burial place and the plaque and everything, yes, you would see that. But people have been questioning, and this is just a reflection of what people have been saying. You look at the bust. Were we glorifying the former president, whom we've all praised as the Asumdwe Hene? Or were we glorifying a political party? Or maybe Kwaku Anyidoho? Or I don't know what your reflection is on this, because it beats me. It appears the man himself has been relegated to the background.
Well, I think what has happened is a classical reflection of the acts of hypocrisy that has engulfed our country. So, first of all, you look at the bust as you talked about, and my expectation would be not to be reading who commissioned it, but who this person is. So it starts with, this was commissioned, and what is this? You know, you expect me to look at the monument or the figure and be able to know who that is or what that is. And then what we see is an emboldened name of the president and I mean the current president, and then an emboldened name of Koku Anyidoho, who now claims to be the son of President Mills and the one who loves President Mills the most.
In fact, you know, there's been a bit of a tussle in terms of the Atta Mills Center or Institute. He has given recognition there as founder and CEO Atta Mills Institute. I guess that cements it, doesn't it?
I think that it is fine for anyone who admires a leader to want to establish an institute in honor of that person. That is fine. We can all do that. If I admire Kwame Nkrumah and I decide to set up a Kwame Nkrumah Institute and run it, I think that is fine. It's all about the way it is being done. And the fact that, look, you cannot take away Atta Mills from the family. And I've heard about the family complain about the fact that they were not consulted and so on and so forth. I think what the MPP government is engaged in and what the president is engaging in is highly hypocritical. You know, there's no, I mean, Atta Mills was...
What is hypocritical about it, though? They have refurbished the Asumdwe Park. They have undertaken work that has seen the renovation of the tombstone, the erection of a bust, the redesign of the park, the construction of an ICT laboratory, a library, an artifacts building, the construction of a concrete shed, the replacement of an alcobond, the construction of a fence wall, and restrooms. It also includes the construction of an entrance for the public and VIPs, the paving of the 50-meter walkway to and around the tomb, the laying of porcelain tiles, very expensive, and the landscaping of the area. All of this was done in hypocrisy, and when the former president even speaks glowingly about former President Mills, who at a point he vilified. He speaks glowingly about him, his classmate, and all of that. Is all of that in hypocrisy?
Absolutely. It's not about what was done, the beauty of what has been done, the aesthetics, and so on and so forth. It is the spirit behind it. And I'm saying that, look, nobody can take away the fact that Mills was a leader of a political party and became the president of the republic. Imagine President Akufo-Addo being no more, and of course we would all one day pass on. So this is not to wish any doom for the family and for Ghana. I'm just using a hypothetical situation. Imagine President Akufo-Addo passing on, and at one time the NDC in government acting as if, they love President Akufo-Addo more than even his family or the political party that he belonged to. It is fine for the state, for the nation, to want to do things to honor and glorify our past leaders. But if you end up doing it in such a way that you want to take either political capital of it, and of course that is reflected in the inscription on the monument, as we talked about earlier, where you have who commissioned it and who assisted the commissioner being, boldly engraved on it, than even presenting who that person is. Briefly, I would want to read, this tomb of His Excellency President Atta Mills, President of the Republic, from this to that, born on this to that, was commissioned by this person. This is the first time I am seeing an inscription of who commissioned a certain facility and who assisted. We all go around the country and we see this, building was commissioned by His Excellency, This building was commissioned by Honorable this and that. It is the first time I'm seeing, the assistant.
So basically, you're saying that political points were meant to be scored from this bit. But let me read this portion of what Mr. President said and then ask you what you think about it, whether you still feel the presidency is being hypocritical, and whether, like some have suggested, you toe the line that Koku Anyidoho, former aide to Atta Mills, is now being used. Of course, he's been expelled from his own party, is now being used as a hatchet man. Note that. I want your reaction to it. But reacting to everything, President Akufo-Addo on the day said his decision to have the Asumdue Park refurbished was backed by an open and clean mind. He says, quote, "I did so with that objective solely in mind and not to exploit or take advantage of any so-called divisions in the political party to which he," that is Professor Mills, "belonged. Those alleged divisions are not of my making and do not in any way inure to my benefit." I don't know about not inuring to his benefit, but your thoughts?
I mean, for the president to even make these comments is clear that he knew what he was doing. Talking about Koku Anyidoho, yes, he speaks his mind, and based on his actions and conduct, the political party that he used to belong to says they've expelled him. We know, based on his statements and all of that, now he says things that clearly undermine the party that he once belonged to. He says things that are clearly aimed at undermining, the former leader of the political party, John Dramani Mahama. And obviously, I've heard him on a number of occasions say, look, I trust and believe that President Akufo-Addo will renovate the Asumdue Park to the glory of blah, 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 and so on. So the president is fully aware of all this. And when he talks about the division, he knows that he is exploiting that division. I wouldn't be bothered because I don't really care about whether MPP or NDC is being advantaged here or there, because invariably they are the same in terms of corruption and in terms of looting the resources of the state. They've proven to be the same. But for me, what's important is the values that Professor Mills represented. I think Professor Mills was somebody who was honest, very sincere, and patriotic. And for me, that is what is critical. It's not about what you do in his memory. I would want to see President Akufo-Addo uphold those same values in terms of protecting the resources of the state, rather than presiding over dubious contracts that take away resources of the state into people's pockets.
So just to conclude on this, you do agree that Koku Anyidoho, like some have suggested on social media, is being used as a hatchet man. You agree?
Well, he's put himself in a way that allows that to happen.
Okay.
Whether it is something that he realizes or not, I don't know. But he puts himself in a situation that allows him to be used for purposes of political exploitation.
Let's look at this. Of course, we also had former President Mahama together with his running mate in the last election, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, at the same premises, also doing their own thing later on. And according to the former president, John Dramani Mahama, Professor Mills brought the best to the economy. He also quotes how under his presidency, that is the presidency of Atta Mills, the biggest contribution to our GDP growth was the non-oil sector. Of course, we've seen how that has spiraled within the last number of years. But let's quickly move, even as we talk about these matters, a very important matter to our national life. Finance Minister presents mid-year budget review today, and we're going to go hard on that in the course of the show. But Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta will appear before Parliament today to lay before the House the mid-year budgetary review of the economic policy of the government and supplementary estimates of the 2022 fiscal year. Today's presentation, pursuant to the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, will see the Minister provide information on how revenue and expenditure had performed in the first half of the year, the country's current budget deficit figures and projections for the next 6 months. Additionally, Mr. Oforiatta is expected to give an update on the e-levy and how much it has accrued so far, as well as provide some updates on what savings have so far been made from expenditure cuts from the emoluments of government officials, including the reduction of fuel consumption, the slashing of salaries by 30%, among others. He is also expected, crucial point, let me just add this, Sule. He is also expected to announce measures to shore up the gross international reserves, which the Bank of Ghana puts at 7.68 billion. Mind you, recently we heard from the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament that it was around 3 billion. And then they came back and said, oh no, it was a mistake. We'll hear from him on that. As of the end of June this year, this covers just about 3.38 months of import cover. So, Suleimana, your quick take on these, the mid-year budgetary review, and maybe you could add, people are still calling for the head of Ken Oforiatta, saying he should resign. Kwadwo Mpienu has said something. Former General Secretary of the NPP, his name just skips me. I think maybe you could help me. He has also said, saying, I don't know what your thinking is. Quick thoughts.
Well, first of all, just briefly on the presence of former President Mahama and his entourage at Mills' barrier site. Again, for me, it makes the whole thing look a bit problematic, having the president go at one point, the former president go at another point. But as I said, in terms of what President...
Is it not because, for example, there had been a statement by Koko Anyido, I had listened to him live on radio, say that the former president and the brother, in fact, brothers of former President Atta Mills should not even dare set foot there. So there was some non-alignment as far as the two sides were concerned. Maybe to avoid anything, they were not going to be at the same premises at the same time.
Well, I really don't know what Koku is talking about. That is absolute nonsense to say that, because as a citizen of this country, I should be able to right now decide that I'm going to visit that facility unless it is not open to the public. We all go to the Nkrumah Mausoleum, and we visit other places in other places of the world, and we visit the sites of former leaders and all of that. So that for me was absolute nonsense to say the least. But the point I wanted to make is that President Mahama's comment about Atta Mills' contribution to GDP and managing the economy so well is a fact. But the question to ask is, what then happened after the demise of Mills, after 3.5 years of his leadership, when President Mahama, took over? What happened? Why couldn't he do what Mills did? And eventually had to take us to the IMF as we are currently experiencing, and all the challenges that we had. And I believe it was because Mills, as I said, was very honest, very candid, very patriotic, and committed to protecting the public purse. And when he died with those things. And invariably, the public purse now became open to abuse under President Mahama. For me, what is important is for all of us to cherish the values that President Mills represented.
Right.
And by that. And that, for me, is very fundamental. Now, to Mr. Ken Oforiatta and the presentation of the mid-year budget today, right. I'm really surprised that we still have Mr. Oforiatta as our finance minister for our country. I've gotten to the stage where I wouldn't trust anything that Ken Oforiatta says. This is the man who said a while ago that we'll never go to IMF.
But you do admit that the buck stops with the president. I mean, it was out of his hands. Maybe as finance minister, he felt, no, that's not the way to go. But when Mr. President, his appointer, says, let's go that way, Ken Oforiatta can do nothing about that.
Well, that was a PR gimmick, to say that the president has authorized. Because, if I were a communications advisor to the government, it was obvious that it was going to be terrible to not put it that way, because the finance minister had just months ago insisted that there was no way we were going to go to the IMF. We are a proud country. We have the resources. And just a few months down the line, we go to the IMF as if now we are not a proud country. We don't have the resources anymore. And it couldn't have taken just those limited time for us to have realized that, look, the IMF is the way to go. So I don't think that the finance minister at this stage has any credibility. Okay. I don't think he has any sort of public trust. And it is catastrophic to have a situation where your finance minister cannot be trusted. He says one thing and it is the other. We are told by the finance committee that it was the minister who indicated that our gross international reserves had reduced to 3-point-something million. And then a week or so later...
Billion, actually.
A billion, sorry. A week or so later, we are told, oh, that was an error. It's actually 7-point-whatever billion. So, I mean, if we are managing an economy where figures are just thrown out there, sometimes to create a certain impression from what the reality is, then we are in trouble. And unfortunately, the president still keeps this same person as his finance minister. But I'm not surprised because we have a president who, for 1 year, has an acting gender minister because the substantive gender minister is chilling away in America. And the president is fine with it.
Right. So, let's just stay with the economy very briefly so we can move on to other papers as well. But Economy Times, just a quick reflection on this, maybe in some 30 seconds. Rise in public debt slows, records 393 billion Ghana cedis for first 6 months. That's the rise in Ghana's total public debt, which has slowed to 393.4 billion or 54.4 billion Ghana cedis. That is American dollars, representing 78.3% of GDP. Then there is Bank of Ghana hopeful of CD rebound. But guess what? Fitch Solutions revises Ghana's growth rate downwards. And this is the reality. Fitch Solutions has further revised Ghana's GDP growth rate to a 2.6% in 2022 from its earlier forecast of 4.8%. That's a 2.2 percentage point decrement. This is far lower than the projections by the IMF of 5.2% and the World Bank of 5%. And the research arm of ratings agency Fitch is attributing this to the rising inflationary rate, currency weakness, the Russian-Ukraine war, among other factors. Quick reflection on that, maybe in some 30 seconds.
Well, again, ideally, you would want to believe figures that are put out by your own state agencies, your central bank, and your finance ministry. Unfortunately, as I have said, we have a situation where they've proven themselves to be people who put out figures that you cannot believe. They make projections that are not credible or deliberately not backed by any figures. And so sometimes you are tempted to believe whatever these international agencies put out there. Talking about the decrease in the slowness or whatever, Ghana's rising debt slows down. Perhaps it's becoming interesting because what I'm used to is maybe the rate at which inflation is rising, slowing down. But in terms of how much debt we are accumulating, slowing down, it's perhaps the first time I'm hearing it. What would have been exciting would be that our debt is reducing rather than we celebrating the rate at which our debt is growing. What it means is that, yes, debt is still growing, but instead of growing at a certain pace, it has now slowed down. Unfortunately, we are swallowed by debt, and I don't know how and when we're going to be able to get out of it. Again, it comes down to how the economy is being managed and having the right people to manage the economy.
I'll focus on two main stories from the papers, three major papers I'm about to put out there, but I just want to read the headlines. So, Republic Press, Swami artisans justify Che Mensa Bonsu's attack. You're familiar with that story. Ghanaian male public servants prefer sex to cash bribes. Then Western Region, police arrest 3 suspects of a murder of lady in Sifi, Bekwai. There's also GES boss shakes in his boots. Republic Press. Daily Guide newspaper. Don't align cost to free SHS. That's Child Rights International. And it's replicated in the Ghanaian Times. Don't charge students under free SHS. It will make it a failed policy. That is Mr. Bright Appiah of the Child Rights International. There's also GHS, Ghana Health Service, strategizes to contain Marburg disease. I want you to reflect, Suleimana, on the charge of Mr. Bright Appiah, who has been saying, once you start charging parents and students, you failed with free SHS. So don't align cost to it. And then the bit about the education, GES boss, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwa, recently supposedly saying that, look, we are reviewing this to ensure that parents can pay something where possible. And then there's a sharp rebuttal from the Ministry of Education. Quick reaction. Let's stay on the educational front and then we shall wrap it up.
Well, Ben, I've been a teacher before. I'm a trained teacher. And I've taught for 4 years professionally. And when it comes to education, it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. When I read the statement by the GES Director General, I was quite elated. And I thought that, well, this may be a reflection of what the thinking is in government. But I was also mindful of the fact that the free SHS policy appears to be a personal project of the president, just as the National Cathedral is. And therefore, it's something that is really untouchable. So I wasn't surprised when a day later I saw a lengthy statement by the same GES Director General explaining away his earlier comments. For me, the reality is it's not about whether a policy has failed or a policy has been successful or the president likes it or dislikes it. The starting point is the quality of education for our kids. And of course, they can afford to send their kids to all the international school to do the Cambridge, whatever curriculum, and take them outside the country. But the rest of us who have our kids in the normal stream should be concerned about what is happening into our education system. And I believe that the free SHS, in the way it is being run, it's certainly not sustainable. And that is why we are having the compromises that is resulting in the quality issues. Right. And going forward, the earlier something is done about it, the better. You cannot run an education system without the input of parents. You cannot run an education system without headmasters and head teachers and teachers.
So fundamentally, you disagree with Bright Appear?
Absolutely. I don't think that it is about the process of President Akufo-Addo's policy. Right. It is about the quality of education in this country that matters.
Fair point. Thank you so much, Sulemana Brima. I would have asked you about this, but our time has run out. Of course, yesterday, the Black Galaxies defeated the Young Squirrels of Benin by 3-0. Fantastic performance by our lads. We'll be telling you more about that in sports, but maybe next time I engage you, I'll be looking forward to your prospects. Sulemana Brima, thank you so much for joining us.
Grateful and have a great week.
Right. So sports is next, and we give you that dose. We'll be telling you about the 4x100 relay in Oregon, where we placed 5th, setting a new national record. And of course, the Black Galaxies doing us proud against the Young Squirrels of Benin. All of that and more to come in sports. Stay. Well, thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, together with yours truly. We're going to be getting into the conversation when it comes to the economy. And of course, I guess the major news on everyone's lips, minds, hearts maybe, has to do with the mid-year budgetary review and what to expect. Bernice, good morning.
Interesting. Good morning, Benjamin. And I'm sure that'll be the biggest point of discussion today on all media. We're expecting to hear from the finance minister. And I know that people will want to at least hear an update on our progress when it comes to getting that bailout from the IMF. Right. We've been told, initially we were told that we could get this, the soonest we could was the first quarter of next
2023.
Year. But now we are hearing that there's some fast track process happening. So it'll be good to get an update from the finance minister, and also the information minister mentioned, and I like to say this always, that this is not the solution to our general economic problems. So we'd like to hear from the finance minister what else is being done to make our economy better. They talk about revenue mobilization, and we know what it is with the e-levy. would like to hear more.
That's a question. That's one thing we're going to be hearing more about.
Yes.
How much has it been able to rake in for us as a country?
Yes.
And all of that. It'll paint a certain picture. Because we've heard whispers, but what is the reality?
Yeah, remember the technical gentleman from the GRE who said by law they aren't permitted to disclose how much we've made. So it is the finance minister's duty to do that. So we'll be waiting to hear how much we've been able to make from the e-levy. We would also like to hear, we know government has agreed with Trade Union Congress to pay the COLA, but the implementation is hanging.
Dating from the 1st of what? July.
So the implementation is hanging. So Finance Minister hopefully would hear how he plans to execute that payment. It's just going to be an interesting one. And I've got my fingers crossed. I just hope that he appears.
You hope he appears?
Yes.
He cannot but appear on a day like this. Mid-year budgetary review. You know, the date was actually pushed back. Exactly. It should have been earlier. It was pushed back on the back of the interactions with the staff of the IMF. So as of now, we're all expectant and we're getting in there. But let's quickly take a look at our guests lined up for this discussion. We have Professor Godfred Bokpin, who is with the University of Ghana Business School. We also have Alexis Daniku, social worker and executive director, Center for Development Initiatives. We also have Joseph Obeng Guta, president. They have a key, stake, a role to play in this matter we're discussing. Then we have Professor John Gachi University, who is with the University of Cape Coast Business School. All of them joining the conversation. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so just to confirm, Professor Bokpin, okay, so we have Professor Bokpin on phone. Prof, can I hear you? Just to know you're there.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Great. Professor Gachi? Okay, we don't have Professor Gachi yet. Alexis?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, and we also have the Guta president, right? Mr. Obeng?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Let me start with Professor Bokpin. I'll start from the economic point of view. You've seen it all, and we had to push back the mid-year budgetary review. But what are your expectations ahead of today? You can touch on debt to GDP, the debt stock as it stands now. You can also look at the e-levy and how much it is said to have raked in for us. At least we don't have hard facts and figures on that. What is your expectation surrounding this mid-year budgetary review, also considering the $750 million we've now got and the IMF program we're entering?
All right, thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers. So I am quite moderate. When I say I'm quite moderate, we have seen it too many times. Promises, expectations that we have not been able to meet. So what I'm expecting is that honest truth about the state of our economy, the challenges, a proper diagnosis of what the issues are, a frank discussion of this, and then the solutions. When I talk about this, I'm looking at them across three layers. One, in the mid-year review, we have an opportunity to update ourselves in terms of how the economy performed last year, because now we have more adequate, comprehensive data. Then we also look at recasting the numbers. When I say recasting the numbers, it was pretty obvious to us. In fact, a month or so into the implementation year of the 2022 budget, that assumptions underlining the budget, the forecast, the target were not realistic. Particularly, as you mentioned, one of them was our debt stock. So quickly we realized that the projections the assumptions, the revenue underlying handle, the expenditure drive, we quickly discerned that they were not enough to assure investors, stakeholders of a fiscal sustainability path that gives them comfort. We made that point strongly. Government then responded in one way or the other through the enhanced measures that were made in the course of the first year, half of the year of the implementation of the budget. They announced expenditure cuts, some rationalizations here and there. Since then, we haven't really received any realistic update on those expenditure cuts, 30%, fuel, whatever, and all of that. So it will be good for the minister to use this opportunity to tell us what savings have been made and how those savings have been applied. And then we are also looking at the debt stock overall. We are not so keen about the central debt stock because we have a fair idea of what it is, but we are also interested in how accumulated arrears across various subsectors at the micro level. Because where we are now, we are not only in a macroeconomic crisis, we have moved beyond that to the micro. So you see how macro-physical pressures are exerting pressures at the micro level. And when I talk about this is my perspective. When we focus on the macro level imbalances or pressures, you see how that is transmitting to the micro level. In the media review, we expect the state to tell us arrears in school feeding, free senior high school, to WAEC, to road contractors. Those are different from the usual budget deficit feed through or pass through to the debt formation. Okay? So it is safe and probably massaging to say that, oh, our debt to GDP ratio is 78%. But you have accumulated arrears on your wage bill. You have accumulated arrears from road contractors, arrears, school feeding, arrears, free senior high school, arrears all over. Now, when you get into that situation, you realize that your macro level risk or instability crystallizes and is also diffused through the micro. Once it gets to the micro, it affects the ordinary Ghanaian much more, and it's much more closer to them than the macro imbalances. This is where we are now. So it serves us no good to focus on just central government debt. Okay, we are looking at things holistically. Our data compilation is telling us arrears alone runs in excess of 25 billion cedis across contractors and all of that. So we are more interested in that. Now, it should not be surprising to anyone to see that the debt stock and associated servicing costs will go up. In fact, hello?
Yes, Professor Mokwin.
Since I started monitoring development in this country, I have never seen a government borrowing around 30%, 28%, 29%. That's huge. The government is the best person to lend your money to in a local currency. So if the government that is the most credit-worthy in a cedi-denominated instrument is borrowing at 30%,
of course, then you would ask yourself what happens to T-bills, for example.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is feeding into the micro economy. So you see how the Ghana reference rate is akin to the policy rate, which has also gone up, akin to the treasury bill rate, which has gone up, Okay, then of course it's also a reflection of the interbank offer rate and the rest of them. So these are the issues we are talking about. Then so in terms of our interest provision, that is going to go up. Then you're also looking at e-levy. E-levy, because it's a disruption, I am not only interested in how much government has mobilized, I am also interested in the negative disruptions this has brought to bear on the charging agents, okay, and the entire value chain. For instance, by how much has volume and value transactions dropped on MTN Momo platform? Maybe it's more than 30%. Do you know what that would mean? What that would mean is that it may affect their gross revenue and how much tax they will also pay at the end of the year. So if you are not careful, you may actually be pursuing a zero-sum game with the e-levy. But then also, you're also looking at the negative disruptions the e-levy is bringing in the whole digitization agenda. So it's not just about the fact that we have mobilized 1 billion, 2 billion. No, because fiscal policy is not only a hammer, but it's also an enabler. So let's not be so focused about the fact that despite all the uncertainty, all of that, yes, we've been able to collect some money from that. In fact, the state should not rejoice in squeezing the citizens to that extent. No. The state should not rejoice in that. Do you know something? Look, if you look at the level of the impact of COVID-19 across micro households, individual and businesses, the state cannot rejoice by milking the citizens in this way. So, and then you are looking at what alternatives exist on the table. We cannot talk anymore about the exemption bill, and probably it appears government is not prepared really to look at that dimension, and that is unfortunate. I'll take your mind back to Spain, and Europe.
Yes, Professor.
You see how inflation averagely in Europe, including Spain, is 8.4%. Our inflation is almost 30%.
Right.
What they are doing in some of those European countries is to tax energy companies, big banks, telcos, with annual turnover in excess of 1 billion euros, and they are hoping to raise close to 7 billion euros. And do you know what they want to use that for? To cushion their citizens against price development.
Wow.
Including paying for their train ticket, subsidizing students on government scholarship to almost 1,000 euros. Austria, others are doing that. Look, the state exists first and foremost for the citizens. The state is never divorced from the citizens. So the state could never be happy that they've been so successful in squeezing or almost stealing money from the citizens. So let's look at things progressively.
Okay.
So that together we build confidence in the economy and get everybody along. Let me finish off by saying this. You know how, and then also we expect some update about the IMF program, right? So this is where we have ended with all that we could do. Everybody now is looking at what we can negotiate from the IMF. That's what makes the IMF so popular. So we expect some update from there. I'll be happy to see that they are fast-tracking in terms of the negotiation, and more importantly, that government has a team in place to develop a program that could be presented to the fund for negotiations to actually move forward quite quickly. And the reason I say so, and as we have said before, is that if you look at when Ghana made the announcement on seeking program support from the IMF on 1st July, we saw the spread in our Eurobond market narrowing. Okay, but the delay and inactivity to some extent is widening the spread almost to pre-announcement level. So something has to be done in that area. The reason this is important is that if you look at the composition of our debt stock, the commercial component, what it means is that economic policy and all of that are subject to greater market sentiment and volatility now than pre-HAPEC, pre-multilateral debt relief initiative period. The reason I say so is that if you look at the commercial component, market confidence then is important.
Right.
Now, if you look at what just happened last Friday or this week, last week, running to the end of this year, if you look at debts that are maturing, probably you're looking at something in excess of 5 billion cedis. Government couldn't mobilize as much as it thought, right? So what will likely happen will be the central bank printing cedis to finance that.
Right.
Even though conventionally you say there's nothing wrong, you should just know that given that part of those debt holdings are offshore investors, when you print cedis to pay them, they will go and look for dollars from the market. And that will burn through your international reserves. And if you don't have enough to defend the currency, then the cedi will have to take a haircut. So from the way things are going, if we are not careful, then the cedi may be going above 9 Ghana cedis in terms of the quoted currency, right? So that is another dimension. Then in there you see a bit of respite relief from the $750 million that has been approved, because that would also show up our international reserves. Then the debate will be whether the reserve is strong enough to sustain us even up to September. Also, that's an issue.
That's another issue.
Look at the reserves in terms of net basis or gross basis, but I think we should plan with the net.
Right, Prof. Yes, we'll come back to you. We would like to hear from our other guests as well. Let me come to you, Dr. Joseph Obing. We've heard quite specifically from Professor Bokping what he expects in this mid-year budget review. What would you want to see? What are the key points that are non-negotiable for you, considering how the economy has traveled, especially within this season, and even our journey to the IMF?
I think we'll be looking at two things in this mid-year review. That is how government is going to enhance on his revenue, and then how government is going to prune down on expenditure. These are the two major things that we are going to expect. And when it comes to the enhancement of the revenue, we are not expecting new introduction of new taxes. Neither are we also expecting that the old rate of taxes be increased. What we are expecting is that they should put measures in place that will enhance or that will ensure compliance. That's all that government needs at this moment. Because the good people of Ghana cannot be settled again looking at the inflation trends and all that. But the inflation that we are experiencing now is as a result of cost accumulation. So anything that will add up to cost means that then the people of Ghana cannot even take it any longer. So we are not expecting any increase in the old taxes, the rate of taxes, or introduction of new. So government will make sure what we are expecting is that we are going to put compliance measures. And we are expecting that the tax exemption policy that we've been talking about should also be reversed as soon as possible. We don't know why government is shying away from removing the tax exemption policy, especially when it is not helping anybody, it's not bringing anything to our benefit, and that people are abusing it. We expect that as part of compliance that I was talking about, government should review the VAT system of the standard rate. We have to go back to the standard rate, to the flat rate, because the standard rate has made compliance very difficult because of some difficulties in charging the 19.25% rather than a flat rate of 4%. That would even reduce the cost burden on the people of Ghana. We are also expecting measures that we are also expecting that government bring back the road toll to also add up to the revenue. That tax net should be expanded, and that if the tax net is expanded, we are not going to compound all the taxes on just a few of us. And then the yield levy that we've all been talking about, the yield levy as a measure to expand the tax net is okay, but the affordability of it is what we've all been talking about, because the key to compliance is affordability. If the tax is not affordable, then you also expect that people might not even comply, like we are experiencing now. So we are also suggesting that the yield levy should be reduced to about 0.5%.
Dr. Bing,
that's what our expectation is. Yeah.
Dr. Bing, sorry, permit me. I find it interesting that you say you don't want introduction of new taxes or the threshold to be increased, but you want a resumption of road tolls. Even though it's not the same thing, it's still going to be, well, some would argue that it's going to be a burden, more burden on the Ghanaian.
No, what we seek is that when we say that introduction of new, then we are not compounding the taxes that the old people, the same people have been paying. We've been saying that taxes are being paid by just a few of us. And so I'm saying that those few people should not be overburdened. But that's not to say that we have to, we do not have to expand the tax net. And that's why we did not support when the road toll was removed, because it expanded the tax net. I hope you understand. And that's why I've said that that should be reinstalled and then enhanced on. If it is bringing maybe traffic, road traffic and all that we have to do is to apply modernity. Maybe do it electronically. You buy the cards and then when you read the booth, you show your card to the electronic system and then off you go. And so this is what I'm talking about, because we have to also make sure that we expand the tax net. And then that's why we are also calling the tax exemption policy to be removed. You understand?
Let me ask you, so some interesting things you have said, Mr. Obeng. You don't want new taxes. You don't want old rates of taxes to be increased. And you're suggesting that inflation now is a result of, cost accumulation, among other things. But specifically on the review of the VAT rate, can you state again what exactly your point is about the standardization?
Yeah, because for 5 years we have been paying a flat rate of 3%. It means that when you go to supermarket, warehouse or the shops to buy your goods, we're paying addition of 3% to your goods. But now that we are being migrated to go into the standard rate, we are being made to pay 19.25%. So when you go to the supermarket now, to the big supermarket, to the warehouses, to the shops that apply the VAT, you are being made to pay an addition of about 16%. That's accumulation of cost, and that's one thing that have added up to the inflation. And that's even it is not also ensuring compliance in the market, because in the market we have those who are charging for the standard rate, those who are not charging at all in the market. So people are basically not complying with, and then at the same time, government wants to increase its revenue. And that's what we say that for easy compliance and to make fairness in the tax system, we should go back to the flat rate to make sure that government have its worth. And then having said all these things, I will come to the pruning down of government expenses, because we have limited resources. And if we overspend our limited resources, the outcome is what we see, isn't it? And so the bid has been that we should find a way, measures to prune down drastically our expenditure pattern, for which I think is too much.
Right.
And so we are expecting that government reduce the government expenditure should be reduced. Public expenditure should be reduced, much as we are thinking about enhancing on revenue. And then government should be bold on its own initiatives, because we are not in normal times. Government might have gotten the good intention to bring social interventions to help the people of Ghana. But if you do not have the resources, you cannot continue. And that's why government have to...
Speaking of the social interventions, what do you think about free SHS? Some have said that if parents can pay something, they should do so. Are you of that same school of thought?
Yes, I've even been saying that we should make it rural-based. And then when we make it rural-based and then the cosmopolitan areas will be made to pay, then it's okay. Then those people, even those in the cities who do not have the means, can apply for the rural schools and all that, or any other means of revision that will ensure that it is not free as in free for everybody, but it should be targeted to the poor. If I say revision, that's what I'm talking. The nurses' allowances is something that I don't want to hear. It does not add up. It does not make sense that a country like us, that you pay school fees for somebody and then add up allowance. Not even the advanced nations now do some of these things. And I think we have to look into those expenditure patterns. If we are able to do that, then of course. And then we have to ensure value for money. Because I'm expecting that they put measures in place that is going to make sure that the expenses are is value for money. That if we say that we are costing school, it means that the same cost that MTN would have charged a school when they are building for their social distance should be the same as the government should build. Not that maybe MTN is building for 300,000 and government project is costing 1 million. When it happens, then it means that we are not helping ourselves and we will dance in the circles as we've been doing.
Okay. I know you have to take leave of us. I just want you to wrap. Being president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, one major thing that affects you is currency fluctuation. Now, you look at where the cedi is pegged to the dollar, to the euro, to the pound. It's faring better against the American greenback. But what would your expectations be in that line per this mid-year budgetary review? What would you be hoping to see to stabilize the market even further, to stabilize our currency?
Yeah, it's very important for the trading community and also important for government itself. Because government have to pay its bills. And what currency does government use to pay its bills? So if the currency is not stabilized, it means that the public debt is also going up by virtue of the increase in the exchange rate. It's as simple as that. It does not even help government itself, and it does not help the generality of Ghanaians. Because then the prices of goods and services are going up astronomically and unnecessarily. And it is not fun. So any measures that should be put in place to ensure the stability of our currency is about the best thing that could help the government and the people of Ghana at the same time.
Ms. Obeng, thank you so much for engaging us this morning. I will be coming back to you later after the proper delivery to find out what your take is on the measures that will be adopted. But that is Joseph Obeng, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Let me come to Professor John Gachi, University of Cape Coast Business School lecturer. Professor Gachi, thank you so much for your patience. Thanks for staying with us. Hello, Professor Gachi.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure did you catch the conversation from the start with your colleague, Professor Bokpin, before Mr. Obeng came in? Did you catch the flow? If not, I would have to rehash some of the matters.
I just came in and then I lost out.
Okay. So some of the matters that have been spoken about, Professor Bokpin has been talking about the social interventions, as so has Mr. Obeng as well, talking about free SHS and all of that, and the impact of them. He's spoken about arrears that government owes and put that side by side with our debt to GDP ratio. It stands at around 78.3%. But then when you add the about 25 billion we owe in arrears to contractors, to WAEC, to the free SHS system. Recently, you've heard some students even saying that schools complaining about food, others saying we can't even participate in quizzes like the NSMQ and debating because we don't have the funds. When you look at all of these, then you look at the state of the economy, the exchange rate and all of that. What is your outlook looking at how the e-levy is performing, and what would be your expectations from Ken Oforiatta in Parliament today?
Well, thank you. Well, I think talking about what should bother us in terms of debt, you said my colleague added the arrears. That is true, but that's not the truth, all the picture. We also do know that government, through some SOEs, made some borrowings. And those borrowings that were made on the account of the government ought to be brought to the debt stock of the country. And
which borrowings specifically do you speak of?
Well, if you go to Cocoa Board, you'll get a picture. The commitment the government made in the cocoa roads, the bills that were issued, all those are outstanding. And government is the main beneficiary of those debts. And that should become public debt and be added to the entire debt portfolio in order to salvage the sinking ship of some of these SOEs.
Prof, quickly on this point, I've heard people, not just members of the minority, but others say that, look, some of the line items, we defer them to other aspects so that they don't fall into our debt proper, so that when we're accounting for the debt ceiling, we don't exceed it. Is that part of what you're speaking of here, that maybe we should put all of these under our debt proper so that we can see clearly where we are as a country? Is that part, does that feed into what you're saying?
Well, that may feed into what I'm saying, but the principle I'm trying to put in place is that from the perspective of Public Financial Management Act, if government supports a particular state-owned entity to acquire debt, and the beneficiary of the debt is actually government, then that should be government debt. And that is what is happening in many of the SOEs, and I've just mentioned the cocoa sector. And that will take the debt of the country far, far above what we have now. And I believe these are some of the issues that should come up in the discussions to know the true debt position of the country as opposed to the debt that government only knows that they have acquired directly without considering the effect of arrears and then without considering the debt that government is benefiting from the SOEs.
We now have the $750 million approved by way of a loan, and this, of course, is to be used for some infrastructure-related projects. The Swami Road, the Sufo Line interchange, the roundabout interchange in that same location. What will be the implications of same on our debt as it stands now? Because, mind you, the IMF itself hasn't come through with a package yet. We're adding $750 million. And we have all of these other liabilities already. The IMF will also give us money that, yes, at lower rates we have to pay back. But what will be the impact, do you foresee, of this? And what would be your expectations of same in the mid-year budget?
Yeah, beyond the impact, you listen to IMF even advising Parliament to approve that loan. And the reason why IMF stated that it's not because we are going to use it to construct those roads, it's because we are near default. We needed that money in order not to default. Another reason is because we have depleted our reserves so much that we needed something to cushion the direction of the currency and to ensure that we don't default on our debt. So going to Parliament the first time, the government was not able to articulate the area the monies will be directed to. It was when Parliament pressed that they want to know the items. That is when government brought that thing. So that is creating a question of whether we are churning out proper data for our finances, especially the debt. So as to whether the money will be used to finance those projects to completion, one will have to wait and see whether that will be done.
Do you have your doubts? Do you have your doubts about that? Because that is also a point that has been made, even suggesting that the error of the head of the Finance Committee of Parliament may not have been an error, but just to get approval for the $750 million loan. So is that a stance you actually take personally?
Well, it's not about a stand I take personally, but the point is for a Bank of Ghana to provide a figure of a reduction from 9 billion to 3 billion to the government, and government used that to indicate various requests to Parliament. It has to go through validation. So for it to turn out that it is actually not 9 billion to 3 billion, it is 9 billion to 7 billion, that is highly questionable. And all this things play out that there is some credibility check that should be done about the data that the government of Ghana is providing to its own people.
Is that an unpardonable mistake that was made?
It is highly unpardonable, if not intentional.
Do you suspect it was intentional?
I find it difficult to appreciate a whole institution like Bank of Ghana to provide 9 billion to 3 billion, and within days it turned out to be 9 billion to 7 billion without any significant explanation. That is troubling, and we do not have to take it as a normal happening.
But they came back to Parliament to rectify it. They said it was an unfortunate error.
So can we have another vote so that Parliament will consider the new data to take their decision?
Interesting perspectives. Let me bring in Alexis Daniku, Executive Director, Center for Development Initiatives. For you, I want your expectations, but with more of a focus on development-oriented social intervention programs, free SHS, 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs. And here's why. All of these projects seem to be mini albatrosses round our necks. In other words, social intervention, yes, but like we've pointed to, problems with free SHS in terms of funding. People predicted this in terms of the swathe of other social development initiatives. What is your take specifically on that? And are you of the school of thought that some of these should be trimmed down? We've heard from Bright Appeal of the Child Rights International, who says, don't touch free SHS. If you do, it becomes a failed policy. What's your thinking?
Yes, and I think that Bright is thinking just the same way I'm thinking. You see, and I'm happy that the previous resource persons, including my very good friend, Professor Gachi, have talked about the numbers, have talked about the budget rationalization, they've talked about the expenditure rationalization and all that. For me, what I'm looking forward to this mid-year review is to see how the Honorable Sector Minister is going to do the reallocation to the social spending sector. And the reason is this: all over the world, when and where social interventions are embarked upon, it is for a purpose and it is for our own good. So when and where again there are disruptions in terms of the disbursements and what goes into it, it creates another troubling situation for us as a country. So free SHS is something good. If it is going to be reviewed, well, I will go for it. But in the review process, we have to make sure that the vulnerable, the socially excluded, and all the other sectors of the economy who need it most are not left out. How are we going to do this? It means that we will need to have a comprehensive, broad-based approach. So free SHS, there are challenges in the funding, there are challenges in the disbursement of the funding, and therefore it is something that as a nation we need to look at. But look, I was happy that Professor Bobbin talked about the social expenditures, the social spending aspect. I will be more interested in finding out, for example, LEAP. And when we talk about social interventions, as a nation, we only always look to social intervention in terms of LEAP and all that. At one point in our life, all of us have received social interventions. We have what we call the contributory and non-contributory social interventions. Your SNIT, national health insurance. We all contribute, or some contribute, so that in time of need, we can readily rely on it. But we are more interested in the non-contributory aspect of the social intervention, and that is where we have the LEAP, we have the school feeding program, we have the capitation grant. And if you know what that is doing to you and I can speak for myself, because through these interventions, I am now able, or I will be in a position to do some kind of savings. And therefore, I will have more disposable income that I can be able to spend on other sectors of the economy. So in this particular mid-year budget review, I'm more keenly looking forward to see how the Honorable Minister will let us know what have been the gains in terms of the revenue rationalization and all those leakages that we have put in place to make sure that we bring in more revenue. To what extent are we going to use the more revenue and the rationalization, the gains, to be able to meet the arrears of the social intervention program? Look, for example, domestic violence and victim support. In the budget, we have made provision that we are going to transfer, or we are going to give them a ceiling of 2 million Ghana cedis. That is woefully inadequate. You need to be on the ground to see how social workers on the ground are struggling to be able to translate services that they render in terms of social inquiry report writing, going to the community to get data to be able to write a comprehensive report for issues of this nature. If you talk about juvenile justice, children in conflict and in contact with the law, it is sad that because of inadequate funding and inconsistent release of the funds for the social sector, and it is not just about this government, it is something that is happening across regimes. Social workers are now being compelled at the directive of the court to take money from the clients, to take money from, let's say, I have a case of custody case with my anybody that I've had a child with, and access is becoming a problem. At least from the directive of the court, I contribute to the social inquiry report writing. The other party also contribute, when in actual fact, it should have been the state responsibility. I know we'll get into the details to say, if you look at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, the budget that has been allocated to them for goods and services is woefully inadequate. Take human trafficking. We have also in the budget, we have made provision to contribute 2 million to the fund. Ghana has consistently, we have done some things good, and as a result of that, we have been taken out of the tier 2 watch list, so to speak. But Ghana is still considered a source, a transit, and a destination country when it comes to human trafficking. And we need to resource the human trafficking secretariat, the domestic violence and victim support secretariat. We need to do more than we are doing. Coming to the
you're talking about, Alexis, you're talking about doing more, but we're in very dire economic straits. We're caught between a rock and a hard place right now. We've gone to the IMF. We're knocking on their doors. We've taken 750 million. All of that is adding to our already heavy debt stock. We're looking at 393 billion Ghana cedis already, over 78% debt to GDP ratio, not even factoring in other debts, other line items. And you still want more spending?
Of course, we, as part of the revenue generation enhancement processes, we are saying we should do rationalization. I will want to see how those cuts are used to cushion the vulnerable. It is for our own good. If you don't do that, and it is obvious, the data speak volumes, that any time at all that you take 2 steps to bridge the gap between the have and the have not, be it in terms of proper intervention, be it even in gender equality issues, when you take 1 step, 2 steps, and then you default, or there is inconsistency in your measures to deal with the issue, you go back 5 more steps behind you. Okay. And it becomes very difficult for you. So yes, we are in serious crisis, so to speak, but in the midst of the crisis, let's make sure that the vulnerable. Inflation, we are talking about inflation. The LEAP grant has not been increased. So you can even imagine that.
In fact, LEAP payments have not been made for about half a year.
I just wanted to come to that. So you can imagine. And that is what they depend on in their family. So even it is not consistent, it is not being released on time, and as a result of that, you can imagine how inflation is also eroding the impact of the intervention. So yes, there are challenges, but I also want to see that government will do more on the social. It is for our own good. Once we spend more on the social sector, it will enhance and inure to our benefit.
Professor Bokpin, thank you so much for holding. I want to run these by you. Now, the 25 billion Ghana cedis in arrears, owed, liabilities within the system to WAEC and to contractors and to others that you spoke of. That is the equivalent of about 3.2 plus billion American dollars, which is just about half of what we are getting from the IMF. Now, you look at all of this, and we know it's not a full solution to our problem, but when you put that side by side with the mechanisms we have in place, $750 million to cater for infrastructure, 1.5 billion expected from the IMF and all of that. And then you put it side by side with this. Fitch has further revised Ghana's GDP growth rate to 2.6 from 4.8%. That is a reduction of 2.2%. Of course, as your economy shrinks, it means that revenue targets are not going to be met. Maybe your tax obligations will be affected and all of that. In the interim, you still have to pay interest on loans and all of that. The IMF and the World Bank gave us 5.2 and 5% respectively. I've not seen a review of their GDP growth rates, but Fitch has reduced it to 2.6. If this pans out, what would this mean vis-a-vis our debt stock, the arrears you spoke of, and others?
All right. Thank you very much. It doesn't look good. Let me start off this way. Your debt repayment capacity is a function of your real GDP growth. So that's what you just spoke about. And the reason the real GDP growth has been revised downward by Fitch and broadly in line, given the inflationary pressures and all of that, is going to be very difficult to achieve the real GDP growth that we had predicted or had in the 2022 budget. The outlook also doesn't suggest that a significant improvement is going to happen along those lines, even as we engage the IMF, predicated largely on austerity, right? And then your debt repayment capacity is also a function of your revenue generation. So you tax on that also. It's also a function of your export performance, right? So if you look at them across all these layers, you realize that they are not in the positive. And that is what would affect your debt sustainability drive. Okay, so one of the things that the IMF will be doing, even before the program is agreed, is to conduct a DSA, a debt sustainability analysis, and all of that. So it doesn't look that good. We have not even added all the arrears and all of them. So that is something that, and this will be, debt sustainability may be a thorny issue for negotiation with the fund.
Because we know it's one of the integral issues they look at, how sustainable your debt is. Could this therefore impact our getting a facility? Because we were told first quarter 2023 we would get it. Then all of a sudden we were told that, measures are being accelerated and we may get it even sooner than then. Will this new rating, and if others follow suit, could this impact that direction?
Well, the fund is more than ready to assist the country. So the extent of the problem, the diagnosis of that will also inform what kind of program will be agreed on at the end of the day. Okay, so, and let's bear in mind that even the 16th IMF program that ended April 2019, we could not achieve debt sustainability that was envisaged in the program outcome. We couldn't. So we exited that program with still the country being at the high risk of debt distress category. And we have cemented our position at that level. Okay. So the point that I'm making is that debt sustainability will be a key issue going forward, and I'll be keen to know the kind of measures that government.
We have this crawler that says Ghana is the RCD loses. That whole the grammar there is completely wrong. Whoever is checking the
now,
should
what that will mean? Hello.
Yes, sir.
What that will mean is that if we want to achieve debt sustainability within the shortest possible time, then it's most likely the government would agree with the fund to front load the adjustment. Okay, the fiscal adjustment. What that will mean will be to impose some kind of immediate cost on all of us or pass through the system. And those adjustments front loaded. And again in 2014, when we made a call to the fund and the program was agreed, it kicked in on April 3rd, 2015. You realize that the adjustment processes were also front-loaded to some extent with the 16th IMF program. This one, because the election is like 2 years or so away, it may be prudent for some level of front-loading of the fiscal adjustment so that in the election year there's some kind of space for government to do whatever they want to do. But of course, given that the program is likely to straddle, to run across the 2024 election, if it's an extended fund facility or the usual ECF, a 3-year program, then it means that the election will also be a big threat to the program sustainability. We need to keep that in mind. The other thing I want to raise quickly, hello?
Yes, sir. I'm with you, sir.
We have talked so much about the free senior high school, and I don't know. This is what I think. We may be majoring on the minor. The free senior high school, if you look at the total expenditure in that area so far, it's not the reason Ghana is in a mess. It is not.
I guess people talk about it not because it's the reason Ghana is in a mess, but because it is also suffering very evidently. And people think, look, if you can't support it, maybe cutting off certain things will inure to the benefit of the overall economy.
This is where I am coming from. It's about prioritization. So if we all come to the conclusion that free senior high school is beneficial, we re-fence it. Then you are looking at other non-priority expenses that can go. Let me ask you, should we have over 100 ministers?
Right.
Why aren't we focusing on that one so that the president does the needful and reduce the size of the government? You know the savings we could make from there.
But how about the savings? Someone would tell you the executive has slashed salaries by 30%, fuel by 50% for most of those beneficiaries and all of that.
Look, slashing salary by 30% is not what we are looking for. The cost of running the democratic governance is too expensive, and it leaves nothing, practically something just small for other growth-enhancing spending. Look, this is where Ghana's problem is. You know, we tend to elevate the free senior high school issue, for which reason we take our eyes off the critical areas where long-term solution will come from. Look, let me give you an example. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Just Côte d'Ivoire. Recently, the president asked the prime minister to further reduce the size of government. Are you aware?
You're informing me, sir.
Yes, even below 40. Below 40. This is Côte d'Ivoire.
So it's doable, but the point is maybe people avoid it because they have realized the will simply isn't there. We've had over 100 ministers throughout this tenure.
Do you know something? You can delete free senior high school. Ghana's problem will persist. So it's not the issue. Of course, we all know issues about affordability, sustainability. Yeah, but if we are freeing up space by prudent expenditure rationalization, free senior high school will be bearable.
In other words, let me ask you. So in other words, you're basically saying, while we're touting on the rooftops that we want to, like the president says, we'll get the best deal from the IMF and we're going to stabilize this economy. In reality, We're not doing the things that are needed to actually stabilize the economy and give it a
You are
backbone.
not doing it. If you don't do those ones, you keep going to the fund as often as it is predictable. Okay? I'm thinking that this crisis should bring all of us to the common table and say that Ghana is not so unique from Cote d'Ivoire for other countries like Cote d'Ivoire to have set smaller government size and they are delivering efficient services. Check inflation in Cote d'Ivoire. Look at the level of development, their economic resilience, and compare that to Ghana. Why should Ghana be having over 100 ministers? That is not the only thing. Look at contract manipulation, project overvaluation. And then look at inefficiencies across state-owned enterprises. If you will be careful to examine all those ones, you realize that free senior high school is a drop. It's so infinitesimal in this analysis.
Prof, in your estimation, how many ministers?
Let me give you another example. Let me give you another example. What is so unique about Ghana's governance architecture? Budgetary allocating to central government, the office of the president, is one of the highest in the region. Why? What is so unique? So if you accommodate this expensive lifestyle, governance style, then there will be nothing left. And you will complain, even a time will come, you will say that LEAP is the problem. This is a problem. Let me give you an example. Not long ago, we were talking about our wage bill. Is that not so?
Right.
Now, our wage bill to total expenditure is one of the lowest among comparator countries in West Africa, even West Africa.
So that really shouldn't be a problem.
Wage, hello?
Yeah.
Ghana's minimum wage per capita GDP is the lowest. What are we talking about? The reason all of these things seem an issue is because we have overborrowed. And therefore, interest payment is taking larger portion of our expenditure allocation and leaves very little for free senior high school and the others. We are not checking our borrowing because, look, all the finance ministers we've had in this country, with few exceptions, have had one beneficiary ownership in financial institutions, participating in our borrowing and all of that. The incentive will certainly be high, right? We are over borrowing. And we are paying excessively in terms of interest costs. So at the end of the day, it takes all the fiscal space. And therefore, when you add free senior high school, it is as though free senior high school is a problem. It's as though the wage bill is a problem. But the real problem, really, is about size of government that we must that will be more sustainable. Let's reduce it. Let's focus on those areas and get government to respond appropriately. The majority leader was talking about the Constitution providing for 19 ministers. What are we doing with 123 or so? What is the wisdom in that now?
So, Prof, I just want to sneak this in before I move on to some other guests. You've spoken about reducing the number of ministers. Tell me, what is a more practical, rational, logical number that we can accommodate as a country? Recently, we had the majority leader, H.M. Nsabo, to talk about 19 per certain factors that we had even from the start. We now have over 100 of them. What practically do you feel we could have, and how much, in your estimation, in terms of savings, could we make if we came down to some of those numbers?
Okay, so certainly as a country, I think we could do below 60.
We could do below 60?
60.
Below 50?
60.
All right.
Right. If you look at budgetary allocation to the ministries, running costs is quite high. It's quite high. If we did that, we could be saving in excess of 3 billion.
We could be saving in excess of
because
3 billion.
If you close down a ministry, even from the 30 to let's say 20, the cost of running a ministry is high. From chief directors to this and this and this and this and this and this, and it's high. Okay? So, and we are not saying that if we did that, then we'll be able to save 10 billion cedis. No, it's gradual. But those reforms have a future. Because over a longer period, the savings and efficiency and the multiplying effect is high. That is what we are talking about. If we did that, you realize that free senior high school is really not a problem. If we did that, you realize that you can actually increase your minimum wage per capita GDP and scale it up to comparator countries, and it will still not burden you so much. If we did that, you realize that your borrowing probably will come down, okay? If we did that, you realize that you generate confidence in the government and state institutions to deliver. You don't end it there. Then you are looking at state-owned enterprises where recently we are creating deputy CEOs and special assistants. And then you are looking at how the payroll numbers have increased from on the books of Ghana Gas, GMPC, TOR, and the rest of them. And then you are looking at even some state-owned enterprises that are not profitable, but their CEO salary are drawn on other state-owned enterprises. So if you look at all these things, you realize that, you know what, you may not even need the fund. These are things we should have done over the years, but this crisis should bring us to that table and say that we cannot sustain this. Right. If we have to sustain this, then it means that we have to sacrifice critical social intervention like free senior high school and the rest of them. I am not saying that free senior high school should not be reviewed. Fine, we can look at that. But I'm saying that the way we are going, it appears to me we are majoring on the minor.
Hold for me, Prof.
Can I just say something just to wrap up and how? Once we make those physical space, then we can then consolidate the gains of the free. And I think the role of civil society organizations in checking the leakages and then the corruption across the sub-governance structure is very, very key. So we need to enhance or do more with civil society organizations to see how we can enhance accountability across the governance structures. Government implemented this Ghana Strengthening Accountability Mechanism with the USAID, and it worked perfectly well. Duty bearers now know that you cannot just sign off a contract without necessarily involving the community members and making sure that they are part of the monitoring and evaluation, and that is sustainable. So that would be what I would say. Let's free more space and make sure that we use the space, the physical space we have freed to be able to enhance senior high school and also bring in civil society organizations to enhance accountability at the sub-governance structures. Thank you very much.
All right. Alexis, thank you for your time. I know you have to nod off as well. Alexis Daniku, Executive Director, Center for Development Initiatives. Thank you for joining the conversation. So according to, and before I come to Professor Gachi, I'll bring in Benjamin Boakye of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. But according to Professor Bokpin then, if we even had under 60 ministers, and if we, even focusing on just that, would be able to save about 3 billion Ghana cedis for ourselves. That is about 70%, if not more, of what we're hoping to get from the e-levy. I always like to make these things practical by breaking them down. And he also looks at the creation of deputy CEO positions and assistants here and there. All of that feeds into, clamping down the public purse, compensations that have to be paid. And of course, in the end, we end up with yawning debt because we know how much of what we get, what we rake in, even by way of taxes, that goes into compensations or loans as well. But let me bring in Benjamin Boakye of ASEP, who joins the conversation. For you, as we gear up for this mid-year budgetary review, what are your very blunt expectations when it comes to the energy sector? Look, fuel prices are still very high. When we interacted earlier with Joseph Obeng, Guta president, he said he doesn't want to see an uptick in taxes. He doesn't want any add-ons, and he doesn't want any increment in percentages. In fact, he says for the e-levy, for example, he wants it to come down to 0.5%. Then we can look at benchmark values. The AGI has its own position. The trading community has a divergent opinion. What is your take on these matters? Hello, Mr. Boakye.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, the energy sector is one of the most inefficient sectors of our country as we speak. It may not be the most inefficient, but it's certainly one of the problematic areas that we need strong policy direction. We've had many speeches, many statements in the budget from ministers, and still the problem gets worse, right? So the power sector, for example, last year, government had to find $1.25 billion to be able to keep the light on and pay the fiscal challenges of ECG. This year, I mean, it's only half year. We already have an outstanding debt of close to 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. So by end of the year, we'll be topping close to $3 billion dollars, as debt that we will have to pay. So, I mean, this is a challenge that requires some strategic assessment and direction. But it does appear that over the years we've been producing the document, ESRB, that's the Energy Sector Reforms Program, cash waterfall mechanism, institutional reform. But it is really not addressing the inefficiency. I think that was the point that Professor Bobson was talking about the size of government and the fact that all the agencies are being ballooned. We are extending the numbers without achieving efficiency. The numbers may not be a problem if you can show that they are going to contribute to productivity and efficiency. But the performance of these agencies and ministries show that the more numbers you put in, the more inefficient they become. And that should send a signal that we are not doing something right, okay? So for the energy sector, I mean, I don't know how the minister wants to address it, but we want to see a new direction. The reason why I don't know why is
Did he just say you want a new direction? Is that what he said?
The point is that when it is spoken, it is not done. So you don't really know how your expectation can really be. It has to be action than just the mere word. As for the words, they're going to say it. But how do we practically deliver? Hello?
Yes, I'm listening to you, sir.
Yes. How do we practically deliver the efficiency that is required for the sector to reduce its burden on the budget? That is what we have to do. When it comes to the upstream sector, I mean, it does appear that it has come to a standstill. Nothing aggressive is happening. I mean, we discovered oil 2007. Within 7 years or so, we had 3 oil fields coming on stream in 2017. And since then, nothing is happening, all right? We are not awarding new blocks. We went through a competitive tender in 2018 and selected 2 companies to take up oil blocks. As we speak, we have still not been able to award the block. So there is no sustainable plan to keep us producing more oil to be able to shore up the budget, because those are the areas where we get, easy money as a country. Because, the normal tax administration is not functioning as it should. Tax evasion is at its peak, and we keep hearing English language about expanding the tax net. And I keep saying that, you have data to actually show that your formal sector contributes more than 70% of your GDP. If you have that kind of data, what that should tell you is that perhaps your formal sector is leaking so badly that you need to quickly fix it to be able to generate more money. Until you do that, you have the resource sector that generates revenue to be able to support your budget. And we are also not aggressive to be able to produce more from the resource sector. I mean, you have Talo advocating that they have more resources in the Jubilee and 10 area. And this is the second time I've seen Talo do advocacy about what they can do in Ghana. And nobody's engaging them to see how quickly we can bring those resources on stream to be able to generate more revenue to support the budget. E&I last year made a proposal to do a fast-track development of their Block 4 field to be able to produce more oil. If they had had traction with the Ministry of Energy to sanction the development of the area, I'm sure by now they will be producing the oil.
Right.
But they don't even have a response from government.
Okay, so
at the same time that
go ahead, land on that
Ghana
point.
Government. Yeah. You want to say something?
No, land on that point. I have 2 quick points that I want you to address briefly.
I was just trying to benchmark the slow decision-making in Ghana with what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire. At the same time that E&I was seeking for approval from Ghana to be able to produce more oil, Cote d'Ivoire discovered oil 3 months after, and they have had clearance to produce the oil by end of next year from a greenfield. All right. What that means is that they don't have the FPSO. They're going to build all the infrastructure afresh, and they are hoping to deliver that by next year. But we don't even have the approval to tie back on existing fields. So it tells you that we are just not serious to optimize the oil and gas industry.
All right.
To be able to produce more oil, show up the budget in this critical period. So we want to see a direction in the budget, and beyond that, some practical action and timelines for these things to be done for us to save money on the debt that we're paying in the power sector, and also how we optimize the resource sector. And maybe my last point would be that there is a strong mechanism for transparency and petroleum revenue. Right? Last year, the minister was supposed to report on how he has utilized the oil money through a petroleum report. That report has not been published. There was supposed to be a reconciliation report in March this year. That report has not been published. So the public don't really know how much came in exactly and how government spent that money.
So those are very valid concerns. In a minute, Benjamin, I want you to do this. I have to move on to Professor Gachi. I just want to find out from you very briefly 2 points. So that means that as far as from where you sit, you're not very optimistic about this mid-year budgetary review as far as the energy sector is concerned. Do confirm for me. And then secondly, secondly, let me just add the second one so you address both. Secondly, excess power capacity and what that means to us in terms of cost. What are you looking forward to in terms of the mid-year budgetary review? Very quickly on that, a minute for both questions.
No, I think we are always available to give government the benefit of the doubt when they make statements. What has always been lacking is action, and a sound, action that really delivers from these problems. The power sector is typically in a mess that we need to aggressively address the inefficiencies, collect the revenues, and be able to pay the debt through the sale of power to the consumer. The budget at this point cannot pick up those inefficiencies. So how we do that is really a challenge for all of us. If government cannot do it, which it has consistently proven that it cannot do, then it has to hand it over to the private sector. Not the kind that we try to do with PDS, but a proper competitive process that ensures that the company that is coming in has the resources to inject into the distribution infrastructure for us to be able to retool it. Power is business, all right? And once you are selling power, you should be able to make the money to pay the value chain and not rely on government to bring billions of dollars every year to be able to keep the light on.
All right. Mr. Boachen, we're very grateful for your time. Thank you that you took the time off to join our conversation. And we'll get interactive with you after the mid-year budget review is actually delivered. But let me also bring in Professor Gachi. Are you still with us? Hello, Prof. Professor Gachi, if you can hear me, just let me hear you. Oh, we've lost Professor Gachi. Do we have Professor Bokpin? Prof. Bokpin, are you with us? All right, so we've lost to both of them. It would have been interesting to get their final take on what Mr. Obeng says about the toll booths and getting back on that point, and then the e-levy as well as COLA. But as we have further interactions on this matter, we shall wrap up smoothly on those points. But thank you for staying with us as far as this conversation is concerned. You know that later on we'll be going to Parliament as the Finance Minister delivers the mid-year budgetary review, and then we'll tear it apart right here on JoyNews. But stay with us. We're going to have more interactions. The Ghana Water Company Limited is extending an olive branch to some people who have not exactly dealt with them very well. They are granting them an amnesty. Is that the way to go on the back of expected tariff hikes? What can we expect? All of that still to come on the AM show. Stay. Well, thank you for staying with us. And as you can see, guess who? Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah is back.
Yes,
and we'll be heading into town to find out what people think about the mid-year budgetary review.
Yeah, so Professor Bopping made a statement that this, what he refers to as our economic crisis, has gone beyond the macro level to the micro level. So we want to hear from you how this affects you, what you're also expecting to hear. We've heard from Dr. Obing, who's GUTA president. He says, we don't want to hear any introduction of new taxes. What do you expect? Well,
and we don't want increments on any of the prevailing taxes.
Yes. So I'm sure that you're sitting at home and you also have your own expectations, you know, considering how your pockets have been faring, at least in the past 4 months. What are you hoping to see? Benjamin and I have had this conversation over time about how, and even one of your guests raised it, about how government across the world
measures they are putting in place.
Put in place interventions, measures to ease the burden on their...
I loved what was said. They are taking away from big corp, which makes sense. These entities are making over $1 billion every year and using that to, you know, cushion ordinary folk. Here, nothing of the sort.
It makes sense.
And when we bring in the Ivory Coast and some of what they are doing, people say, oh, but the Ivory Coast, oh, did they give you food, free food? I didn't get that food. Did they give you free electricity? I actually didn't really benefit. Water, look, around the period they were giving water, my taps weren't even flowing. So I could say practically everything you did was lost on me. But I understand some people may have benefited from it. But look at what they are doing in other circles and what we are doing.
So Benjamin, I mean, valid point you raised. And so there are those who say there's no denying that, you know, the world over governments are struggling, but it's the decisions that make the difference. Okay. So what decisions are being taken here in Ghana to ensure that individuals like you, like you watching us, you know, have a little burden eased on your pockets? And over the weeks, we've been talking to experts who said, and even the Vice President himself has confirmed it, it may get tougher before it gets better.
You know, when I hear that, because each time now I have to go to a filling station, I get palpitations each time. I remember yesterday, you know, topping up, and I was asking, is the price still what it was the last time? Because, I mean, now, at least in the last few weeks, there's been some stability, and even diesel has eased up just a tad. But that's how bad it is. That's how apprehensive. I don't have to be this apprehensive. It's not good even for your health as a human being.
You're right.
You know?
You're right. So we've got our fingers crossed. The finance minister is expected to appear in Parliament, and sitting will start at 10 a.m., we are told. Hopefully he can get there on time, and we'll be bringing it to you live here on the JoyNews channel. We've also been sampling views. Our colleague Michael Ashale is out. He will be bringing us those views. But Benjamin, you also mentioned that conversation we will be having later about what the Ghana Water Company Limited has decided to do.
Interesting move.
I find it very interesting because I remember the conversation that I had with Mr. Stanley Marty about why they were asking for an upward review for tariffs, and debt was one of the major issues. The Ghana Water Company owed. The Ghana Water Company was not making enough to run, to keep its operations running. So we will be finding out for you shortly. And of course, I'm sure you'll be happy to know if you qualify to benefit from this particular initiative by the Ghana Water Company Limited. But let's cross over now to my colleague Michael Ashale, who is out to find out from some of you what your expectations of the mid-year budget review are.
In terms of expenditure and also in income for half of the year for 2022. Well, we are asking you this morning, what really are your top priorities, concerns you're expecting the government to address through this mid-year budget review? We're speaking to everybody. Where we are currently is at 37 bus terminal, not the main one, the one that is on the shoulder of the Medina to Accra stretch here. We interact with everybody, for transport owners, for drivers, for passengers themselves, for commuters. What really do they think? There's a driver here. Let me speak to him. Driver, good morning. So the finance minister is going to be in parliament today. What are some of the things you're expecting him to talk about?
Actually, for me, I was expecting that we'll talk about the fuel so that the fuel will reduce for us.
What exactly do you want him to do about the fuel? Reduce it, take off the taxes?
Take off the taxes for us so that we'll be free. Everyone will be free.
But tell me, we started the year with somewhere 6 Ghana cedis. It's been difficult for you, right?
Yeah, now we cannot buy the fuel. Me, as everybody was saying, we cannot buy the fuel. So we need for him to talk to reduce the fuel for us.
So that's a driver, and top of his list is the cost of fuel. He's asking for the taxes specifically. That adds up to the petroleum price build-up to probably be reviewed. Let me see if I can get some more individuals to speak to here. But it's a number of people that we are here to speak to. Drivers, transport owners, even for commuters and those that are hawking just here. Although illegal, probably the living conditions is what has brought them to this situation. Madam, good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Finance Minister and then Obeko Parliament. Then our person Okanhuasem and Opawe.
And Konomen.
Then I want Enyama.
Enyama Bibia Boyading. Say cry, intimate Toshi, into Okanhuasem. Why, and Konomen, they say, Nkoyu. Say what one they cry and talk. Ediani intimate to Amos, someone take 3 cedi. I dream 4 cedi. I mean, me to a me thought 3 cedi answer me. 4 cedi no cramp.
Too bad we lost Michael there. I was enjoying the interaction.
Very interesting take.
Yes.
The driver, you know, and very, from 6 CDs to what? 12 CDs plus 13 CDs. So obviously he's not happy. And he says he wants the taxes looked at. And that's the same tax component that Mr. President responding to the TUC and others said that 4 billion.
Yes,
Charlie, we don't go
much. Yes. And that lady who was talking about how people aren't purchasing her goods and products anymore. Like I say, it's down to the very last Ghanaian.
These are the people on the ground. If they're telling you Chroma Asia.
Exactly. Too bad we lost the feed there. We will try. In fact, we need to try to get it back so we can hear from more of you. But you can get onto our Facebook page if you have anything to share on what you expect to hear from the finance minister as he prepares to deliver the mid-year budget review.
And maybe I'll just chip in this. What do you think about the arrears we have? Because, you know, in my interactions with Professor Bokpin, he mentioned that, look, if you want to control matters, how about the number of ministers you have? Slash them to maybe under 60 and you could be saving about 3 billion Ghana cedis. Well, guess what? We are also looking at having these arrears to WAEC, to contractors, of about 25 billion Ghana cedis. When I work it out, it shouldn't be anything less than $3.2 billion. I mean, we have all of these to deal with. What do you think about that? How do we get out of this? Because like people have clearly said, even government admitting, Kojo Ponkroma has admitted it, the IMF is not the solution. The $1.5 billion they are giving us, or will give us, depending on certain factors, is not the solution. But I keep looking forward. How are we going to deal with all of this? You owe WAEC. They are due to conduct exams. I'm told it will not affect the BEC, but how about the WASI? And now we're even conducting our own thing, so the dynamics are different.
So Benjamin, when you talk, people say you're being too focused on the negatives and you're not seeing any positives. But I'm sorry to say, there's just so much happening that is
overwhelming
of the situation we find ourselves in. I don't remember the last time I heard of WAEC being owed. I mean, there were some of the things you knew that, okay, well, there were teachers, contractors, yes, but now it's becoming very widespread and it's very concerning. So just to mention that the minister is not only presenting a review, but we're expecting that there will be some supplementary budget that will have to be approved later. Initially, we heard that it was just going to be a review. So, the majority leader in Parliament gave some clarification to that. So let's see how it goes, and hopefully we'll be able to see the light, as they say, at the end of the tunnel on this particular one. So we will hope that we can get Michael back, but for now, we'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll be having that conversation about what the Ghana Water Company Limited is doing for people who owe it. Do stay. Some 22 minutes after 9, you're still watching the AM show. JoyNews, in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and the planned city extension project from Cities and Habitats will make home ownership easy. This year's fair is under the theme Home Ownership, Where You Live Matters. At the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair, we got you covered with all your needs from mortgages, personal loans, consumer financing, land acquisition, security, and many more. Just over the weekend, we had our first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center, and it was really, really exciting. There were exciting activities, including giveaways and many more. The next fair will happen at the West Hills Mall, and we'll be bringing you a lot more on that here on the JoyNews channel. But it's not time to have that conversation with the Ghana Water Company Limited on the amnesty they're giving customers who owe them. We've got Director of Communications at the company, Stanley Mate, joining us via Zoom. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Great. So this amnesty you talk about, when people hear the word amnesty, I mean, they quickly equate it to pardon, like what we have with the president granting prisoners amnesty. But yours does not take that form entirely. What you're doing is to give customers a grace period. They have to settle their bills, after which the law comes after them. Tell us more about this decision by the company.
Yes, it's a pardon. It's a pardon too. So what we mean here is that although people are owing us and we need the money to enable us perform the way Ghanaians expect us, we are still pardoning them for now, so that they put themselves together so that by the end of August 2022, they should be able to settle all arrears owed the Ghana Water Company Limited. So that is why we have chosen the word amnesty. Now, we have realized that in the last, or during since the beginning of the year, the trend for payment is gradually worse than before, and more people are also not paying their bills in full, and it's having a toll on operations. So then we have done everything possible to enable us enable customers pay their bills. But what we have realized is that the situation keeps worsening, and we keep piling up arrears. Now, I think we've gotten to the point where we have added enough mercies. So now we need to go all out and to collect our monies. And that is why we have given this grace period, or this pardon, to customers who are owing us, that you have up to the end of August to settle our arrears, or else you're going to face sanctions. And one of the sanctions will be for us to publish your names in the newspapers, and then have it prosecuted at the law courts as well. And as for the disconnection, is the normal thing. So we will disconnect and then put in other efforts to enable us to retrieve our monies. We don't expect that our customers will still be recalcitrant to make us go to the extent of prosecuting them at the law courts, or the extent of publishing their names in the press for owing the company. So our prayer is that everybody shall do what is expected of him or her, or expected of a customer, so that you settle your bills. Right. The sad aspect is that water is postpaid. So you consume the water you are built to pay. So if you do not pay your bills on time, it affects our operations. It is the little money that we collect from our customers that we use in buying or in procuring our chemicals and other equipment and all logistics needed for the production of water. So if you refuse to pay after you have consumed, then your actions affect us negatively. And we've gotten to a point where we don't have to allow that. We will expect our customers to settle their bills before the end of August or face the law.
Mr. Mate, so I just need a bit of help when you say those who owe. So there are some people, say for example, at the end of the month, they're supposed to pay 400 cedis, but they're able to settle 200 out of that. And there's a rollover to the next month, and consistently they've been doing that. Are they included in this category of persons who are considered to be owing the company, even though they've partially made payments?
Everybody owing the company is involved. If you still have some challenges, we have given a window of opportunity for you to explore that. So go to the district office and then talk to them, and then they can give a payment plan till the end of August.
Okay.
Now, if you're a recalcitrant customer, such that for months and months you still refuse to pay your bill, I'm sure you handle differently compared to somebody who pays maybe who does part payment and so if you're able to show beyond any reasonable doubt that you will be able to settle your bill, I'm sure you'll be treated differently. So I entreat everybody, if you have challenges, visit our district office, and then your situation will be handled. But if you do not do that at all, then you're expected to pay your bills in full, or you face the law. Bernice.
Right. So they have until the end of August to settle their debts.
From now that I'm speaking with you, they have that amnesty. So it is to enable them put themselves together before to settle their bills before the month of August comes to an end.
Right. Mr. Mate, once we have you here, let me find out from you. This is supposed to help the company. I remember the last time we had a conversation on the tariffs. You painted a really bad picture to us in terms of what you earn or what you're able to receive as payments against your general production cost. The tariff adjustment was supposed to help you deal with that. Is it a situation here that because we still haven't heard from PURC and the announcement on the tariffs have not been made yet, that is why you're taking this step? Is that the case?
I don't think that is the case, because when we even presented our tariff proposal, we have told the general public that customers were not paying their bills the way they should, and it was affecting us. Okay, so we have said this, and we have been doing everything possible to collect our arrears, not this time alone. You will know that we have been sending announcements. We have been going out to disconnect people, our customers who default and all that. But we've gotten to a point where the arrears keep piling up. It is affecting our operations, so we need to take more drastic measures. Okay, so I don't remember the last time we published names of institutions or names of individual customers in the newspapers. It's been quite a while, but we will have to go down that lane again because of the challenges that we are facing. It's becoming enormous, and it's seriously affecting our operations. You know, the sad aspect is that although our water is postpaid and we expect people to make do with their payment, people refuse to pay and still expect good services from the GWCL. Now, if you don't pay the water after we have consumed, how are we going to get money to invest to give you good water in future? Okay, and the future that I'm talking about is tomorrow and after. Okay, so that if we are unable to buy chemicals now to treat the water, how are we going to produce water tomorrow? how are we going to produce water in the coming week? Okay, so people expect these services from us, but these same people who are seeing our product. I think it's an irony, and we all need to desist from such attitudes. Let's pay our bills the way we should, and then we can't reprimand the institutions when we do not perform. But you can't reprimand them when you owe them and when you are supposed to give them what they expect from you to enable them perform.
Right. So, Mr. Mate, are you able to give us an indication on whether or not you have the PURC has finalized its works with regards to your request?
We have done enough consultations expected of us. We are still in the process of consulting because we are still talking to the general public about reasons why we should pay a little more. We are still fulfilling what the law expects of us when it comes to tariff proposals and tariff presentations. The rest is for the PURC to do what is expected of them and then to announce the tariff. I think the more they delay, the more they create challenges for the utilities. So we encourage all of us, including the PURC, that we should do the needful as early as practicable so that the utilities can function effectively.
Talking about effective functioning, Mr. Mate, there are issues of burst pipes, and I haven't had water flowing for about a week now. I pay my bills, so there's a problem in the company's reaction time to issues like this, and even announcements on disruption of water supply and all that. I know in times past we've had this conversation about how paying the right amount for the service we receive will help the company deliver quality service and quality water. So just help us understand how this will also work in terms of your interaction with the public, the interface. If there's no water flowing, why don't people know on time? You know, people pay their bills, you should have their numbers, you should be able to send them messages so people plan. I mean, what are you doing in respect of that?
Bernice, thanks for the questions. And when we presented our tariff proposal, we told the entire nation the improvements that we have in the system, and everybody attested to it. So our response time, we all know, has improved. But there are still challenges in the system because, for instance, our address system is not good. And so sometimes people inform us and not give us the right address system. So it takes a bit of time for us to arrive at the location and to have it repaired. And sometimes some of the challenges, like, for instance, old pipelines and then, let's say, old valves, and all that. In recent times, just let me give you an example of this weekend. There was a there was water gushing out of one of our pipelines around Okonglo, Shashi area, and enabled us repair. So whilst we are shutting down valves, we realized that one of the valves got faulty. Okay, so it means that isolating or stopping the water from flowing to enable us to repair also became a challenge. So it took a bit of time. So these are some of the challenges that we face. So it's not like we do not respond on time. Okay, we may respond on time, but then repairs may take a bit of time due to the challenges that we face. Okay, so our operations are quite different, and we expect the general public to appreciate that, and then to support us, report and give us accurate locations so that we can attend to these challenges on time to save all of us. We accept that there are challenges in the system. We can't have a perfect system, but we are doing our best so that we can minimize everything, including our response time. And our response time, as PURC and everybody will attest, is better compared to previous times. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. Mate, there have been a couple of interventions. One of them is this one, trying to shore up revenue for the company. Some time ago, I saw some water on the market, bottled water produced by the Ghana Water Company Limited. I haven't seen the product recently on the market. What updates are you able to give us on that, finally?
So our G water is on the market. Demand for the G water has been very high. So we have been working on expanding our treatment plant. And so it's on the market, but demand is quite high, so it may not be too visible. But in the near future, I'm sure we're going to have some visibility because we have expanded our treatment plant. This is also to augment what we have in the system and also to have packaged water so that at least we can use it. The packaged water is more hygienic, especially when you're in traffic, when you have to be at meetings and all that. But the G water is comparable to our tap water. So we also encourage people to drink the tap water, except you handle it and you have to handle it hygienically. Okay, so the water is on the market and we are going to see more visibility in the very near future. Bernice.
Grateful for your time this morning. Stanley Mate is Communications Director at the Ghana Water Company Limited.
Thank you for having me as well, Bernice.
Great.
Good.
You too, sir. He's been sharing with us the decision by the company to grant amnesty to customers who owe it for 2 months or more. So here's the deal. This is not your regular amnesty, where somebody is taken out of prison altogether. This time round, you're just giving a grace period within which you have to settle your debt. Failure to do so means you're going to face the full rigors of the law. Your name is going to be published in the papers. And for those who have illegal connections, the Ghana Water Company Limited is advising that you report yourself so you get regularized. So that's just by way of information for you this morning. But we've still got our eyes on the big one, which has to do with the media budget review. Now, the attention of World Vision has been drawn to a live television broadcast by a group of people operating under the names World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation on Energy TV and ABT satellite television stations since June 28, 2022. A review of the video recordings of the programs indicates that these groups are using the logo and some images of World Vision with a view to getting interested people to register with various amounts of money in return for corresponding financial support. Now, World Vision is concerned that its logo and images are being used by the so-called World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation to collect money from the unsuspecting public. World Vision, therefore, disassociates itself from the so-called World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation and their operations and wishes to caution the general public as such. We call on the members of the World Vision Fan Club and World Vision Foundation to desist from using the logo, images, and any other material for their activities forthwith. World Vision is a Christian relief development and advocacy organization dedicated to working with children, families, and communities to overcome poverty and injustice. World Vision has been working in all regions of Ghana for the past 42 years. For more information on World Vision Ghana, visit www.worldvision.com. Now, Benjamin will be joining me shortly as we take your comments on the big one. We'll open the phone line shortly. What are your expectations when the finance minister appears in Parliament to deliver the media budget review? Do stay. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's now time to take your comments, and we've been discussing largely the media budget review and what you would expect to hear from the finance minister. Benjamin joins me again.
I also hear some interesting things going on social media that some people are claiming they've traveled in recent times with their Ghana card.
Yes.
It would be interesting. Have you traveled recently with your Ghana card or something?
Let us know. Let us know. It'll be good to hear from you. So the number to call 0302 211-691 extension 20302 211-691 extension 2. Let's hear what you have to say, and we'll be glad to share it with the rest of the world. Benjamin, I mean, unfortunately, we had some good reactions on the streets from a driver, a commercial bus driver, and a street hawker. Unfortunately, technology failed us, so we couldn't hear from more of such. But it'll be good to hear from you. What are your expectations as the finance minister delivers the mid-year budget and supplementary budget to Parliament? Well, Abu-Baidoo is joining us from Kumasi. Hello, Abu-Baidoo, let's hear you.
Good morning, Bernice and Akakpo.
Good morning.
I think that there is nothing new under the sun that the finance minister doesn't know. And he's aware of our problems. So I think, as your panelists have just made mention of the review of the E-level 2, at most 0.5%. And also the free SHS, they should be specific and earlier thought, because with the IMF, Ghanaians were saying IMF, but they said no. But later on, we went for the IMF. So the free SHS, as we are in a lot of progress, I think that if they can make a review so that Ghanaians can pay part of the fees, I think that it will help, because there are a lot of problems in the field in terms of finance.
Thank you so much, Abu-Baidoo from Kumasi. And he's just reiterating what one of your guests said about the free SHS, Mr. Dinikus, who said that, look, I agree with Bright Apia of Child's Right International. We don't have to touch free SHS. But there are those who are saying that we are struggling. At least we can tell the feeding problematic. The young people, teachers are even struggling. So what exactly do we want to do with the free senior high school program? Well, Francesca from Adenta. Hello, Francesca. Let's hear you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bernice, and good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning, Jane.
There's nothing new. I think the finance minister is just come to tell us the old stories. I will still listen to him and take it like that. I just hope something different will be done about all these things.
Francesca, what's the most important thing you want the finance minister to address?
This e-levy stuff, and this IMF, or at least the school. I don't want it to affect the school and all that around that. But,
right, Francesca.
And my Ghana card, I took my Ghana card to the shopping mall the last time. I did some few stuff. So Benjamin should try it out himself. Oh, okay. I actually,
you got me there for a second. So she's being sarcastic, Francesca. Thank you so much for calling us.
But that was on me.
She basically said she went to shop with her Ghana card. So I thought you were answering.
So I should try it.
Yeah, I thought you were answering Benjamin's question about.
Francesca, that was a dig. That was sarcasm at its
trouble with your Ghana card, because that's what and I saw that post. But there are those who say, well, maybe because you were coming into Ghana, but try the reverse. Fly back to the US and see if your Ghana card would be accepted as I mean, this is an experiment, if you want, a social experiment. Try it. Let's see if it works. Let us know.
Yeah.
Isaac is joining us from Accra. Hello, Isaac.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Let's hear you, please.
I want to make a comment on the Ghana water issue that.
Okay, please go ahead.
I've been using Momo to pay my bills, and for some time now, all the assured codes are not working.
Okay.
And I can't go join queue, leave office to go and pay my bills.
Okay.
I think they should also fix their system, which will make it convenient for people to be able to pay their water bills easily. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isaac. That's a good one. I'm just quickly trying to find details on that statement. There's a number you can call. So let me just let you have that so that you can also make your complaints, okay? So you can WhatsApp the Ghana Water Company Limited if you are like Isaac on 055 5123 393 055 5123 393 or 055 51 55524. 055515524. There are other numbers to call, but let me just give you the toll-free line, which is 0800 40,000. 0800 40,000. So reach out to the Ghana Water Company Limited and hopefully your issues will be resolved. But thank you so much for joining us, Isaac. Let's head to Obuasi now. Adam is there. Hello, Adam. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Adam, please go ahead.
Okay. Actually, we don't expect much from the finance minister because we all know what is happening in this country. They have already wasted all the resources that we have. So what we expect him to say is like, Ghanaians will tighten our belt. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Adam, joining us from Obuasi. So he's not the first person, Benjamin, saying that we don't expect anything new from the finance minister. But I think...
In fact, the pessimism is pretty, what would I say? It's pretty...
Widespread.
Widespread, yeah. It's what even some economists are saying, and that is a bit of a concern. But we have another call on the line, do we?
Do we? Yes, we have Maxwell from the Volta region. Hello, Maxwell. Good morning. Let's hear you.
Good morning, Bernice.
Good morning.
Benjamin.
Good morning.
This is Maxwell speaking from Qatar.
From Qatar?
Yes, please.
All right. Let's hear you, Maxwell.
Okay, so these are the issues that I have. You know, I've always said that I'm an NPP member. But you see, this e-levy tax. Yes, please.
Maxwell, please don't listen to me over the television. There would be a delay. Listen to me over the phone, and please go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that I'm an NPP member. But I've always said that this e-levy that they introduced, if they should reduce the rate at least to 0.5%, Ghanaians will pay gladly. But see, the intransigent position of the finance minister and the government, insisting that everybody must pay 1.5% of the tax, was problematic. I can give you an example. Myself, I don't pay the tax. But I've only been doing more money transactions in huge volumes. And also, there are a lot of wastages in the system. Currently, or about a few months ago, we heard that they have done some cuts in expenditure, 30%.
Yeah.
Who knows the numbers? How much of that and what is it doing? We are expecting the finance minister to be candid with Ghanaians to be. We should be able to know how much we realize in terms of 30% cut in expenditure.
Okay.
Then we should be able to, cut down on discretionary expenditures.
Right, Maxwell.
I've always been wanting.
Okay. Sorry, Maxwell, we've run out of time, but your point is well noted. You're concerned about the e-levy and you want to know how much government has been able to save with this announced, expenditure cut. Hopefully, the finance minister will address your concerns. But thank you all for calling. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. That's all time will allow us. But Benjamin has a quick message for you before we wrap up the show.
Right before that, don't you forget that we'll also be bringing you an extended version of what to expect ahead of the mid-year budget review. But let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water from Akakpo Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780#, option 2. Yes, *780#, option 2. And follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. Don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform. This advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions do apply. A person also, just to wrap, who is not required to register for VAT may voluntarily apply to be registered. A voluntary applicant shall be registered as a taxable person where the Commissioner General is satisfied that the person has a fixed place of abode or business, or reasonably believes that the person keeps proper accounting records related to any business activity carried on by that person, submits regular and reliable tax returns, or reasonably believes that that person is a fit and proper person to be registered. Take note.
Right, so as we wrap up the AM show, though, we are going to continue, also because we're expecting the finance minister in Parliament soon. Let me just deliver this birthday wish to Stephen Osaikisi of the National Labour Commission. Keep being the best dad and uncle. We love you, from Chelsea, Elaine, and Ira. That's a sweet one there, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the name Elaine.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note,
does it ring a bell?
No mischief.
Okay, so
interesting development.
See what I told you?
Whoa.
Don't be surprised. I mean, we've seen this over time. So, like I said, I was hoping the finance minister appears in Parliament.
We can't keep doing this as a country.
Yes. So, just by way of information, we would be expecting the finance minister at 1 p.m. That is an extension of the advertised 10 a.m. So, Benjamin, will you give me my stone?
Somji.
But that's it. Well, that's how we end this edition of the AM show. Thank you so much for your company. From Benjamin and I, that will be it. Up next is News Desk. Do stay with us. Enjoy the rest of your day.